much of an impact does the current state of the US economy influence voters?
Oh, a great deal. I mean, they ask voters what's on your mind. It's always the economy is number one. Immigration might be number two or three, or immigration policies at the border, and then five or six is always foreign policy. I mean, the world has got a lot of foreign policy events right now that affect supply chain, inflation, war in Ukraine, the food basket there, and the rest of it. But that's low down on the American list. They want to know if they can live under under the president, and so they asked the economic question. Now, some people would say some people don't vote with their wallets. They're above all that. No, actually, they're not above all that. As a matter of fact, people can't eat. They're not worried about who they're going to vote for. So they want to know who they're better off. And Ronald Reagan asked that at the time when he was running against Jimmy Carter, who are you better off with, Republicans or the Democrats? Well, I'll tell you what, you're not old enough to remember this, but when Jimmy Carter was president, your insurance, your rates on your credit card were up to about 27%, and people went broke paying their bills. So Ronald Reagan knew what he was doing, as a matter of fact. But look, economy plays a great deal. And, the other thing, too, is that Donald Trump has come roaring back from nowhere. About 15 months ago, it looks like he was going to jail. Well, today he looks like he might be going to jail anyway, but it doesn't make any difference. He can run the presidency from prison as far as the Constitution is concerned. And he's come roaring back. And I think the really interesting news this time around, and I've been watching politics very closely for 5 decades, is that the polls seem to be spot on. Spot on. The Des Moines Register poll just before the election, before the caucus vote in Iowa, said that Trump was on 51 or 52%. Well, he was on 51, 52%. And they predicted that it would be a toss-up between Haley and DeSantis. And, they were absolutely right. So, in 2016, all the polls were either wrong, or they were crooked, or they were bent. I don't know who organized those things, but American politics is very fluid, and Hortensia, politics in America is a contact sport. It's very rough, and when I was a kid growing up in Chicago, which is run by the crooked Democratic machine led by Mayor Daley. When I say crooked, he did a lot of things that wouldn't pass ethics or law today, as a matter of fact. And, in 1960, my grandfather voted about 3 times for John Kennedy for the presidency. So Illinois was probably just enough to get Kennedy over the line. I mean, politics is bought and sold. And, what people don't realize in Australia is when a president or a mayor or a governor gets in, he's got a patronage. He can offer thousands of jobs to people. So he can actually make people stay, vote his way because they might not have the jobs on Monday morning.
So, Joe, what you're saying is this time around, the polls are spot on. So by the time Super Tuesday comes around, do you believe the US will have their presidential candidate locked in?
Yeah, I think it is. Trump won Iowa handily. I believe he's going to win New Hampshire. And he just doesn't have a lot of competition there. The lovely governor from South Carolina and the governor from Florida, they just don't have enough oomph in their engines to beat him to the polls. And right now he's leading, I think, by about 53, 54%, or he's 16, 20% above the next contenders. So I think by Super Tuesday, that is March, when we have all these other delegates coming up for the vote, I think former President Trump will have locked in the election and given the Democrats something very difficult to think about. And that is, how are they going to win this election with Joe Biden in the physical and mental shape he's in? Now, I'm not going to say he's missing his marbles, but it's quite clear that time has taken its toll on him, and we all age differently. And he looks very tired. And these wars in Gaza and the war in Ukraine and all the rest of his foreign policy disasters have weighed very heavily on him. And I don't think he's holding up very well. And a lot of people are counting on him. And I'm sure there are a lot of people in the Democratic Party, Tenzia, who are looking for ways to get rid of him before they meet. before they meet in Chicago in July, they may even try to roll him.
Yes, it'll be very interesting to see how this all turns out. Joseph Siracusa, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.